See that clock emoji. Okay, let's just get into it because I just have a couple announcements. One that I didn't put in the slides, but I know that this bothers some people. So my keyboard is normally very loud. I did get a new keyboard and it sounds different. So if you are a person that is bothered by different things, just be aware that my keyboard will probably sound different today. Sounds like that. Don't even know if you could still hear that. Okay, anyway. So today we're going to be doing a review of lists and strings. We're going to be doing some practical stuff with it. So we're actually going to be working on exercises for most of the class today. And it's going to be a chance for you to get some practice with lists and strings. We have some of the more beginner overview exercises as well as some challenge ones if you want, depending on what level you want to try out. So I hope you guys enjoy that. As always, you need Replit today. And I always say this, but especially if you're struggling, this course is really helpful. If you weren't here last week or last class, I made this announcement that I'll be traveling for work next week. And we'll still have class, but my screen will probably look different. Internet will probably be weird. Bear with me as I try to make class while I'm traveling. I won't really be able to stay after and help as much. So definitely if you need help, stay after today because I won't be able to do that next week. And I won't really be able to respond to any emails either. So if you need something, go on the Discord, ask your TAs, whatever you need to do. Okay, so I'm not going to go into presentation mode because we're really going to, well, maybe I will. No. Let's see. All right. I just wanted to give out this reminder. Make sure you raise your hand, speak in class. Helps me to know who's talking. Also helps other students stay focused. Also, don't spam the Zoom chat, like sending a lot of messages all at once, especially if they're not like related to the class. It distracts me, and then I start stumbling over my words, but also it distracts other students. And I don't want to have to ban anyone from the chat. So, all right. So, like I said today, first we're gonna do an overview of string methods because we didn't get to those last time. And then we're going to do some practice exercises for strings and lists, so you really get some practice applying those skills that we're learning. Okay, so just a general overview. We talked about methods before. These are just functions that are associated with a specific object type. So in programming, we talk about methods. They're just different functions that you're able to do depending on the data type. So we've looked at functions related to lists, and then we're going to look at functions related to strings today. So to access a method, you usually put a dot. So you would say, so if I had a variable that was a string, I would say like my string name and then dot and then the method name that I wanted. And they'll usually have these parentheses open and close right here. Sometimes you put something inside the parentheses. This is called an argument. That's just if you have some kind of option to specify. But some methods don't take arguments and then you put nothing inside the parentheses. So just always remember to have these. Sometimes you'll put words inside of them, but sometimes you want words, code. Okay, so another thing that I already talked about last time, but I want to reiterate, string methods that we're about to talk about, they don't modify the string directly. They create a new string. And so if you want to use that new string or save it, you have to assign it to a variable. And I'll show you that this will make more sense when we start applying it. But this is because strings are what's known as immutable, just means that they're not able to be changed after you create them. So this is different from lists because if you recall when we learned about lists, we were able to change lists. We could reassign specific values in lists. We could append things to lists. We could delete from lists. Cannot do this with strings. So I just have 4 major methods that I think are really useful for strings. The first 2 are upper and lowercase, or maybe 5. The first 2 are for converting to upper and lowercase. So these are pretty self-explanatory. It's dot upper and dot lower. So dot upper converts all the letters in the string to uppercase. Dot lower does the opposite. It converts all letters in a string to lowercase. This is really useful, especially for getting an input from a user if you don't know if they're going to capitalize their name or type in a capital Q instead of a lowercase q. You can just convert the string using string name dot lower, and it will make it easier for you to check strings against input. So for this example, I have my string equals hello with a capital H. and I have lowercase, myString.lower, uppercase equals myString.upper. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying you have to reassign it. If I just did myString.lower, it wouldn't really do anything. It might print what it would look like in lowercase, but it wouldn't save it to anything. So you have to save it by assigning it to a variable. And then if we were to print these two, the method where we use .lower would just be hello with no capital letters. And then the method where we use .upper will have hello all capital letters. So that one, .lower is pretty useful. I don't know, some people use .upper sometimes, maybe if you want to put everything in caps lock, but so those are two that are really useful. So is there any questions about .lower and .upper? They're not super complicated. Okay, as always, put questions in the chat. The next one, I'm going to be breezing through these, like I said, but we're going to practice them. So I figure it's more useful for you to practice them than me just talk about them. So I'm going to talk about them quickly, and then we'll just get practice with them. So the next method that I want to talk about is removing white space. This method is .strip. This just removes beginning and ending white space in a string. So not all of the white space. If you have a sentence, it's not going to remove all the spaces between words. It's just going to remove what we call like trailing or leading white space, where it's right at the beginning of a string and right at the end. So you can kind of see my example here is a string where there's a lot of spaces in the beginning and a lot at the end. You might get this if you're reading in files or something, and then you don't want all the spaces associated. Maybe the files have a lot of tabs or something at the beginning, and you don't want that. So in this example, I have spacey string, and I have a bunch of spaces in front and a bunch of spaces behind the word hi. Now stripped string is spacey string dot strip, and this is going to remove that white space. So if we print the first one, it still has the spaces. So see, this didn't actually change the string itself. But now if we print stripped string, I should have chosen different names, that's hard to say, it will remove the white space. And of course, when Python prints, it doesn't usually print out these quotes, but I wanted to show you the space in between because I can't really just print, I can't show you that the space is different. But anyway, so that's how you use .strip. The next one, and possibly the most useful one, is .split. And this actually splits the string into a list based on a given separator. So usually the separator could be a space or a comma. And the syntax for this is the string name and then .split. And inside these parentheses, you're going to put in quotes what you want your separator to be. So the example that I have here is if I have a string that I'm calling favorite string, and I just made a string of my favorite things, so cats, books, blankets, and they're separated by commas, I can use string.split and then put a comma here to split it out into a list of strings. So split converts a string into a list. This is really great for receiving input from a user. So if a user inputs a series of numbers or a series of words, as long as they're separated by something, so it could be a space, it could be a comma, you get to decide. As long as it's separated, typically by a comma, you can split it up and turn it into a list. And then once you have something into a list, you can iterate over it. You can use all of the list methods that we learned before. So this one is very useful. There are a lot more string methods, but don't worry if it seems like there's too many. You're never really expected to just commit to memory all of these methods. I find myself Googling string methods all the time. I never remember if I need to use split or strip or something, but as long as you can read the description of what it does and then know how to apply it, you should be good. So let's go on to exercises. Are there any questions so far? And we're going to apply them and hopefully you'll have more questions. All right, let's get into it. So I'm going to X out here because I have a couple options. So we have list tasks here, a couple slides for lists. We have a couple slides for strings. And then we have these extra exercises if you just want even more. And then I have an extra challenge if you want to have practice combining list and string methods. So I'm going to leave the slide on this one, but I did put the slide in the Discord channel, also on the calendar invite as always, so you can look through these as you go. but I'm just going to give you a couple minutes on each one, and I'll go through the ones in class. I'm also, let's see, open room. So I've just opened a breakout room that I called teamwork room. If you want to work in a team or you want to show your screen to someone or work it out with a friend, you are welcome to go to the teamwork room. I think most people said that they prefer to just stay in the main room and then ask questions as needed. So you're welcome to do that too. But this is what we're going to be doing today. We're just going to be doing exercises, and then you can ask me as many questions as you need to on these exercises. So if you want to work along with everyone else, we're going to start on this one here. Fill in the following code to create a list of your 3 favorite foods. Doesn't really matter what those are. I just want to make sure you know how to create a list. All right, so let's start on this slide. But you're welcome to move through the slides as you finish. So I will give you, let's say, I don't know how long this will take. I'll give you 5 minutes to work on this first slide here. And then, so it's 11 right now. So at 16, I will check back in and ask if someone wants to share their solution. So go ahead. And if you want, like I said, if you want to work in a team, you're welcome to do that in the breakout. And ask questions, ask questions. Sorry, eventually I'll stop talking. But always ask me questions. All right, go. Yajer, yes, I see your hand.
Okay, so it's about the first one.
Mhm.
For filling in the code to create the 3 favorite foods, all we're doing is listing our 3 favorite foods in a bracket. We're not printing anything on the first task.
No, the first one, I just want to make sure you know how to define a list. So it's, yeah, so you're just replacing these dashes here, the underscores, with what you would do to create a list.
Okay.
Okay, so I see a question about the second task. So it says fill in the following code to access the first element in my pets and assign this value to first pet. So I just want you to replace this with what you would do to make this variable equal the first element of this list. Does that make a little more sense? Okay, so I'll give maybe one more minute now that we cleared that one up. Okay, so yeah, thank you for offering up your code. If anyone else wants to share how they did it, I'll give an opportunity for you to share your screen in a bit, but I'm just going to go through this real quick. So first one says fill in the following code to create a list of your 3 favorite foods. Doesn't really matter what those foods are. The point of this task was to make sure you knew how to start a list. So you always start with your variable name, the assignment operator or the equal sign, and then these brackets. So I'm just going to make up some favorite foods. We've got pasta. So if these need to be strings. So first off, make sure that you have quotes, and then each one is separated by a comma. You can add a space to make it a little more readable if you want. I'm going to start another string in quotes, chocolate, and then another string, chips. So as long as you make sure that you've got all of these are strings, you've got the quotes for the beginning quotes and ending quotes surrounding your string, you've got commas, and these are not inside, the commas aren't inside quotes. And then you do that consistently throughout this list, then you're good. Yeah, that's a good, someone was saying a good phrase to use in string testing. That is true. Yeah, that's a good string to use if you just need one to test some stuff. So are there any questions about how I did this one? Okie doke, then I will go ahead and talk about this one next. So this one says fill in the following code to access the first element in my pets and assign this value to first pet. Does anyone want to tell me, oops, I'm about to, whoops, okay. Does anyone want to tell me what they put here? You can either
Well, I use first pet equals my pets at position 0.
Yeah, exactly. So just a reminder, make sure that you raise your hand, just because I can't ever tell who's talking because I can't see. Raise your hand if you're gonna speak. But yeah, exactly. So if anyone wants to type theirs in as well, type what you put in this space. So so I see someone put dog. That is good that you have a dog. I just mean using this list here. What would I put in this spot to make it equal the first value in this list? Someone want to type it out? Yeah, David. Oh,
I tried to get the folder to print out each element in the my pets list, but it's not letting me do that.
Oh, okay. We'll get to printing in a bit. Okay, so no one wants to volunteer to type out what they put, but that's okay. So if we want to access the first one, we're going to access the list by going, oh, sorry, what, I'm not being clear. I'm saying, does someone want to tell me what they put in this space here? What did you type? Sorry, if I'm not being clear, yeah, just let me know. So if you want to access the first element in this list here, you would put the name of the list, and then in brackets, you would put the position that you want. So we want position 0. So we want first pet, should be turtle. and we put my pets, and then brackets 0 to get the first element in that list. Any questions about this one or anything on this slide? Okay, doesn't look like there's any questions. But definitely ask, even if your question is, I didn't know how to do this one. That is okay. So I'm going to move on to the next one. But if you need me to explain any of these or practice in the same thing but with different variables or something, just let me know. Okay, so the next one gets a little bit trickier. So now I want you to fill in the following code to print each item in my pets. So I think this is the one that David was talking about. And I'll go over the solution in how much time? I'm gonna say 5 minutes, so at 27, but if you need more time, then you could just put type out more time or something in the chat or let me know. Message me, private message me. So anyway, 5 minutes, do this one. And like I said, if you have these done and you wanna move on, you're welcome to do that. Yes, David.
I think I figured it out myself.
Yay, good job. Okay. So it is 27. If anyone needs more time, please let me know, but I'll go ahead and start talking about this one. So I see, okay, I see the chat here not getting errors, but it's not working. If you could send your code maybe, or you can private message it to me if you don't want to send it to everyone. But if you're having trouble, it always helps me to see your code, because otherwise I don't know what's happening, or even just an error message. But if you're not getting error message, that's weird. Okay. Oh, like if you just type out your code, I mean, like type it in chat, or if you take a picture of it or send it to me. You can send me your code, yeah, through screenshot or typing it out or in the Discord, or you can share your screen if you want. Just let me know and I'll set that up. Let me make sure you can share your screen. Okay, but yeah, so does anyone want, while we're figuring that out, does anyone want to share their code either by typing or sharing your screen? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sandra's got it. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna go over here. So this is how I would do it. So we have my pets equals cat. Oh, what are all of the things? Yeah, cat. It's okay if the pets are different bird, whatever it is. And now if we want to print each element in there, we're going to say, we're going to use a for loop. We're going to say for I in my pets. And I, yeah, I'm seeing a couple people got that. Great job. So let's go ahead and run this and hopefully it'll work. Yep, and here we can see cat, cow, cat, bird in it. Print it up. Oh, I put cat on there twice. Whoops. Okay, yes, Michael, I see you have your hand up.
So what if, so what do we do with the first pet thing then from the previous one?
In the previous one, on this one?
Yeah.
Do you mean you're confused on how we got this, or you're just wondering what you do after that?
Yeah, what do you do with the first pet thing?
These are just all separate tasks. So
Oh.
even though I use the same list, I just wanted you to do different things with the same list.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not supposed to be coherent or all the same thing.
Never mind then.
Okay. Okay, Grace, I see that you sent yours in the chat. It's acting very weird for me. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can. Okay, it won't let me download that for some reason. Maybe it's a security thing. I don't know. Can you try sending it to me in Discord? I don't know. That's weird. Okay, but yeah, so we're on this one. So we had, yeah. So does anyone have questions about, okay, yes, I can see that now. I'm gonna look at that. Yes, so the problem is that you call main, but you call main inside your function definition. It's indented, so you need to unindent main. So just to show you what that looks like, you accidentally have it like that. Yeah, it's hard to catch. You need to make sure it's that. Yep, that's a tricky one to catch. Indentation in Python. Always have to pay attention to it. Okay, so we've got this one. So does anyone have questions over number 3 here? Otherwise, we'll move on. Great, I'm glad it's working now. Okay, so I think that's the end of our list ones. And now we're going to move on to some string tasks. Let's see. Okay, there's extra. I think this slide is supposed to be up here, actually. Okay, I'm just going to do string tasks, and then we can look at these other ones, because these are from other websites. But anyway, okay, so now we've got some string ones. So a review of some of our string, how we deal with strings. So I want you to fill in the following codes to find the length of the string state. And you're going to put how you get the length of this string here, right here. So fill in this code to get the length of the state variable. And let's say 3 minutes, so at 35 maybe, or earlier if people are done faster. Just let me know. Otherwise, I'll wait until 35. Yeah,
I
David.
think I got it already.
Good. Thanks for letting me know. That's great. I'll just wait right until 35 to make sure everyone had a chance to do it, since that's what I committed to. All right, it's 35. So who wants to tell me what they put right here? Any takers? Yeah, close. So yes, that is correct. I see Yasher had println state. In this one specifically, I wanted you to assign it to the length variable, but you basically had the right idea. You knew what you were doing. But in this case, I wanted you to assign it to the length variable, and you're going to use the len function here. So len and then state. Yep, exactly. I'm seeing some answers come in through Discord as well. Yeah, great job. So we've got length down. Let's move on to our next task. Of course, if there's questions about anything, let me know. This next one is going to all go together. So we've got 3 parts. We've got 2A, 2B, and 2C. And you're going to use your code in 2A to help you with the next 2 parts. So I will give you, let's say, oh, I don't know, 3 minutes until 39 to do this part. Unless you need more time, totally fine if you do. I just never know how to time these things. Okay, but anyway, the task is fill in the following code to get the first letter of the name variable and assign it to first initial. So we have some person's name here. I want you to get their first initial. And so you're going to assign, you created this first initial variable, and you need to do something here to get that. So you're going to put something inside here. So you can go ahead and put in the chat what we should put inside the brackets. Or if you want a little more time on it, I'll wait until 39. Go ahead, David.
I did all 3 tasks of parts of task 2.
Great job. Okay, I'll just give you 1 more minute here to finalize what your answer will be for this one. Feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat or in the Discord. You can send it to me privately if you're more comfortable with that. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I'm seeing. Yeah, great job. So yeah, just make sure, I did see someone had a space here that could have just been Zoom, but make sure that there's no space between the brackets and the list name. But yeah, so you just put name 0 here, and that'll give you the first initial. So moving on to the next one. So we already know that this needs to be 0. And now if we want to get the last initial, and by last initial, so this is the name, Alexander Hamilton. We want his last initial, which should be this. So what should we put here if we want to get the last initial of Alexander Hamilton? I'll wait a couple minutes, maybe till 41, or until a bunch of people put their answers in the chat. Yeah, so I'm seeing several answers come in. So yeah, so I did. So you do want name 10. I believe some people are putting 18 because you're getting this, but what I want is initials. So like A-H. But that, you are totally right if you were trying to get that. I think that would be 18. But in this case, I wanted 10 because I wanted this H here. So you have
Oops,
last initial.
I was getting the N instead of.
Uh-oh. Yeah, so it's like we want initials. Like if you have the initial of your first and last name. So in this case, it's Alexander Hamilton. So we want the first initial to be A and last initial to be H. So yeah, I tried to word that as clearly as I could, but it was a bit strange to write. Okay, so yeah, so we're gonna say name
It's my mistake.
10. That is A-okay. All right. Yeah, and if you did want the very last one, you could always just put -1, but we didn't want this one. We wanted this one because we're making initials. All right, so now on the next task, we're putting together this. We know that that should be 0. We know this needs to be name with brackets 10. Don't forget that you need the name of this list here or Python won't know what you're talking about. So the name of the list and then in brackets, the index that you want. So now if we want to put those initials together, what do we do? Give a couple minutes or until people put their answers in the chat. Okay, so any other ideas for how we can combine the first initials to make, the first and last initials to make full initials? Yep, so I'm seeing this. So make sure that your assignment and then your equal sign is on the left side. So don't put the plus or anything on this side. Make sure left, it always starts with the variable name and then equals. And yes, David.
We could name a position 0 plus name a position 10 to make the full initials.
Yeah. Yeah, great job. And then I'm seeing some other stuff come in the chat. No, so by full initials, so it's like when someone asks you for your initials. So my name is Miranda Shirk, so my initials would be MS. This guy's name is Alexander Hamilton, so his initials would be AH. So if we want to combine these, what I'm asking you to do is add these two to get the full initials. And so we can do that, and I'm seeing it in the chat, yep, by saying first initial plus last initial. And I'm going to do this example in Replit too, just so you can kind of see. I know it's a little weird with it being on a PowerPoint, but just so you can see. So we have name equals, oh, no, this didn't erase. I wasn't looking at my screen. Okay. And then, oops, make sure you indent. Now we have first initial equals name 0. Now we have last initial equals name, what did we say that was 10? And now full initials equals first initial plus last initial. Scott, I am not sure what you're asking there. And so now if we print, so I'll print first initial, and I'll print last initial. This is just me, I'm adding these print statements so that we can see what we did. And then I'm going to print full initials. So now I'm going to run this. And it says, which one is not defined? Oh, this one. Okay, I accidentally added an S. Always check your variable names. Yep. And so we have our first initial that we defined here, A, and then H, and then AH. And so what we did here is called string concatenation. So this is a string equal to A. This is the string equal to H. And if we want to concatenate those two, we just add them together. So are there any questions about how we did this one? All right. Cool. So these are the ones that I made up. We have some extra ones. There's like 13 minutes left in the class. So if you want to do more exercises that are similar, these are a little more basic. And by basic, I don't mean easy. I just mean like starting from the beginning of what we learned about strings and lists. So if you want to do these, this is a pretty good website. It gives you exercises and you can type in your answer and submit it. It'll tell you if it's right or wrong. You can also just show the answer if you want to check it. So if you want to do these that are more similar to the ones that we did in class, go ahead and work on those. If you want to do something like this, it's just a little more, I think it gets more complicated. I didn't look at these a ton, but I just want to give you as many resources as you could possibly want for practicing. And it'll even tell you what the task is that you're doing here. Okay, so I have ones for lists, I have ones for strings, and then I have this extra challenge one. And at the end of class, so let's say right at 7, if you want to stick around, I'll show you how to do this extra challenge one. But for now, go through these exercises on these websites. And if you come across one that you're like, I'm not really sure how to do this one, or why is mine not working, then ask the question in the class. Or you can get to work on this challenge one, and right at 7, I will go over how to do it. Yeah, I'll send over those links. So I'm putting the links in the chat. Okay, Donovan, I'm going to answer your question in Discord because that's easier to type in than Zoom. Yes, yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm having a little trouble with this extra challenge. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Says here I can't start the screen share while the other participant is sharing.
Sorry, let me stop my sharing. Okay, you should be able to go now.
Okay. You see this input? This is the list. This is the code for that extra challenge. I did enter the list of numbers separated by a comma, no spaces. I put in 2, 5, and then I get this error.
Yes. Okay, let me look over this. So we've got number list equals input. Q equals number list dot split. Yeah, perfect. So you turn it into a list, and then for I in Q. So it says not all arguments converted during string formatting. I'm assuming the error is because you're doing math on strings because you took input, which is a string, and then you split the string into a list, but the list is still a list of strings. So you can't do math on strings. So you need to do something to convert those to integers or floats, whichever you prefer. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I don't think you can exactly do that because the number list dot split is creating, yeah. So you can't, so that would be trying to convert the entire list. That's a good idea though, but you can do for I in Q, you can convert I to an int. So you could say, yeah, you could put the int function there. Yeah, there's a couple ways to do it. Yeah, exactly. Int I mod 2, so that should work. Let's hope it does. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, great job.
That's all. I'm gonna stop.
All right, so it's right at 7. So I'm going to go over the solution to this extra challenge. If you have questions, definitely stick around. If you want to see the solution to the extra challenge, then also stick around. So are there any questions for me before I start? I'm going to share my screen. That would be helpful. I've lost my chat box. Here it is. All right, yeah, if you have to go, that is perfectly fine. I'll put the solution in the slides as well. So if you need to go, that's all right. I'll put the solution in here. Okay, so first it says.
I have to go.
Okay, that's all right. You can just drop off. Have a good weekend, everyone. Okay, so for anyone sticking around, I'm going to go ahead and start this. So first, ask the user to enter numbers separated by commas, then use the string methods to convert it to a list of numbers. So first, we just need to ask user to enter numbers separated by commas. So this is an input. So would anyone like to share or type in here what I should do if I want to ask the user to enter a set of numbers? Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Donovan, there's also an easier way to do that. I'll show you. All right, yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to this challenge one. So if we want to take an input, first we need to define our input. So I'm going to say, I'm going to name it numbers because we want to ask them to input some numbers. So numbers equals input. Enter numbers separated by commas. All right, any questions about this input here? Next, the next part is use string methods we've learned to convert the inputs to a list. So if we go back to these slides, the string methods that we want is to convert it to a list, which is this dot split function here. So the syntax that we use is string name dot split and then what the separator is. And in this case, we asked for the separator to be commas. So just to convert this to a list, we can now create another variable because we have to assign a new variable. We can call it numbers list. And then we can do numbers dot split. And in this case, we want it to be split by commas. So I'm going to put a comma in there, and the comma has to be a string so that Python knows you're telling it, you're giving it a string value. So I'm doing numbers list equals numbers dot split. Now this is going to be a list, but as we talked about with Yasher, this is actually going to be a list of strings. So let's just say, so I'm going to print this so you can see what this looks like right now. So enter number separated by commas 1, 2, 3. And so it gets us, puts it in a list. But you can see by these quotes around it, it's a list of strings. So we can't do any math on that. All right, let's go back to the problem definition. Okay, so use the string methods we've learned to convert the input to a list of numbers, which we did. Now we're on step 2. For each number in the list, print whether the number is even or odd. All right, yeah, if you guys have to go, that's totally fine. Okay, so I'm going to keep going over this. So for each number in the list, print whether the number is even or odd. So to go iterate over a list, we call it iterating. We're going to say for I in our list, which is numbers list, then I'm going to say I equals, oh, I don't want to redefine it, sorry. We want to check if it's even or odd, so we can say if, and we need to make sure it's an integer, so we want to convert it to an int. If int I is divisible by 2, which we use the modulo. If it's divisible by 2, that means it's even, so we can print the number is even. So let's say print I and then comma is even. Else print I comma is odd. All right, so let's see if this works. Enter numbers separated by commas. Enter my numbers and press enter, and here it goes. Oh, it says 6 is odd, which is wrong. Oh, I forgot to put equals 0. Sorry, forgot to put that. You just always have to check. Python is very particular. Okay, so now let's try this again. And now it's correct. So we've got if int I mod 2 is equal to 0, then print it's even. Else print it is odd.